starts going, and then they make a targeting decision, which is, do we launch a missile to intercept that incoming ballistic missile? And if it's going into some empty farm field and stuff, well, then there's probably not a lot of reason to waste an air defense missile doing it. But in some cases, these missiles have gotten through. We think, we don't know exactly how many missiles Iran can launch. You know, I've heard variations. Maybe they have 1,000 or 1,200 missiles. And then I've also heard that over half of their launchers have been taken out. And it's not clear how many of those 1,000 or 1,200 would be associated with launchers that are no longer there. So you have to do a little bit of math on that to say, well, if, let's say it was all equally distributed across the board, then that means if they had 1,000 and they took out over half the launchers, that they could only launch, say, 500 missiles. That's still a lot of missiles. But then the question is, how vulnerable are those missiles to being hit? And if there's a big surge in launching missiles, where would that come from? And I think for the most part, a lot of those missiles will come from southern Iran. And if they come from southern Iran, that's actually where there will be an interesting discussion between the U.S. and Israel, because the U.S. actually has the forces in place to address those launchers and those ballistic missiles probably more effectively than the Israeli Air Force does, simply because of our carrier task forces that are sitting down there. So, yeah, we'll see. But Israel certainly, based on the behavior of what's reported of Israelis on the streets going about their daily lives, certainly the impression is that within Israel they think that the threat has diminished. And if you look at the volume of missiles that have been fired from Iran into Israel since the start of this thing, that has dramatically tapered off as well. Whereas they do get hit with missiles, the sheer volume of those missiles has dramatically tapered off. Now, whether that would suddenly surge and increase, again, that's something that everybody's going to be watching and wondering.
So, if regime change is what Israel wants in Iran, if the nuclear program is gone, if there is no more nuclear program, how much leverage does Iran have anymore in this fight?
Well, I would say if the regime's gone, they don't have any leverage.
If the nuclear program is gone.
If the nuclear program is gone, then they have a lot less to discuss. I mean, they have a certain amount of leverage. Let's just say this much. Nobody wants to get caught in a ground war in Iran. You know, and I should point out, Iran is a lot bigger than Iraq. All right, that's what a lot of people, they go, well, we went to Iraq. Yeah, Iraq's one problem set, if you will. Iran is much bigger. 90 million people. It's a gigantic country. It's the geography, topography, everything is very different, and so nobody wants to get involved with a ground war in Iran, and there's no doubt if anyone, if Israel was to try and do that, and you got to remember, I don't even know if Israel could pull that off, because first off, the logistics would be overwhelming for Israel to try and put significant ground forces into Iran. And then the sheer geography and the size of the population would probably make that, almost impossible to really control. So
this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Call Allah, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Hodash. That's giving all praise to the Most High, in the name of His only begotten Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to our teachers, the elders, and apostles, the great millstone who taught us His truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the whole elect scattered abroad. Shalom to the 144,000. This is just, a live video. Trump has already spoken. I kind of brought it back some. Okay, so it's going to be like a few minutes behind, but I want to grab as many precepts as possible as we play this live footage of, pretty much America. It says U.S. attack on Iran. President Trump addresses nation at 10 p.m. And it's 10:21. So he's pretty much already addressed. And we're going to go into that too. But these countries going to war. All right. So the prophets starting with the head elders and apostles, great millstone on down, was right. And Salakim, I lost my voice, so bear with me. But yeah, let's just play this and pray be edifying to the for elect. It says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And the Lord is bringing in this World War III, which shall be with burning and fuel of fire." You heard what he just said. He said they don't want to have a ground war with Iran. So this is going to be a nuclear war. All right, ancient wars were with ground fights and infantry and stuff, but now these wars are going to be nuclear. Okay, they're going to use their weapons. So with America arming and shooting Iranian nuclear sites, hey, that's a provocation for nuclear war. Okay, which we know a prophecy is not going to happen tomorrow, but we know that what this means is we're getting closer to these things happening, which means they're going to bring out the MOTB very quick, and then this thing is going to escalate. All right, let's see what Trump got to say, though.
And so they didn't have a credible conventional military threat that they could pose to South Korea anymore.
Let's grab this real quick,
So
too.
their only avenue of approach was
This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. The second woe was past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So that third world's war is coming quickly. All right, the Lord is about to destroy this place. Okay? The second terror is past, but look, the third terror is coming quickly. So yeah, these terrors are talking about these world wars. And Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is about to destroy this place. So you're hearing them get ready for Trump to come in. You know? You can read, you can listen to some of this.
Reacting to the strike, saying, "Good, this was the right call. The regime deserves it. Well done, President Trump." Lindsey Graham says, "To my fellow citizens, we have the best Air Force in the world. It makes me so proud. Fly, fight, win," Graham says. I believe we have a number of lawmaker reactions, so we're just going to go through these. Senator Fetterman, the Democrat out of Pennsylvania, says, "As I've long maintained, this was the correct move by POTUS. Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have nuclear capabilities. I'm grateful for and salute the finest military in the world," Fetterman says, moderate Democrat in the Senate. The majority leader, John Thune, Republican, says the regime in Iran, which has committed itself to bringing death to America and wiping Israel off the map, has rejected all diplomatic pathways to peace. And Allah's misguided pursuit of nuclear weapons must be stopped as we take action tonight to ensure that, and it looks like it gets cut off there, but I'm assuming that Leader Thune there is alluding to the idea of ensuring that nuclear weapons will no longer be a possibility for the Iranians to use as a weapon. Do we have any more reaction from lawmakers, Julie? All right, it looks like we might have some trouble there going through these. But my question for you, and there's Senator Kevin Kramer saying, "When only we can do what needs doing, we must do it. Great call, Mr. President. Great job, U.S. Air Force. God bless the USA." One more I'm hearing. Tom Cotton, "Iran has waged a war of terror against the United States for 46 years, he says. We could never allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. God bless our brave troops. President Trump made the right call, and the Ayatollahs should recall his warning not to target Americans." How do Americans, how did the Air Force get into Iranian airspace, carry out a strike, and then get back out of Iranian airspace before the president can even make an announcement about it? How do they get something like this done, Al?
Well, very carefully.
Yep.
I will tell you this. They're stealth aircraft, and they're called stealth for a reason. Flying at night, so visually they're pretty much, they're black, should say a black or darkened aircraft. Very difficult to optically, pick up with electro-optical devices or to see, if you will. They're flying high, so they're very small as well. And then, of course, they're stealth, which means that they're very difficult, if not impossible, to pick up on radar. And that's how they do it. The other thing, too, is you got to remember Israel has pretty much wiped out the Iranian air defense capability, to include all the associated radars and things that go with that air defense capability. So essentially, they had kind of left the pathway to these various targets wide open. And the Iranians didn't really have a way to defend or defend against them. Now, theoretically, you got to keep in mind these are bombers. All right, they're not flying that fast. They're not supersonic bombers, and that's part of the probably some of the thinking was. Literally, were saying that Ceausescu and his wife were taken out and executed, and so sometimes these changes can happen very quickly in ways that we don't predict or expect. And so I'm just, my thoughts are that we're going to have to really watch what happens in Tehran right now to see what the full response is politically, you know, within identification is being this revolutionary Shiite regime that, you know, is trying to take over the Middle East and everything else. That's kind of who they are. And so the time for peace, that's very difficult. And again, if they agree to everything, again, they're going to have to look to the Iranian people who are going to look at them and say, so exactly what are you again?
Hey, Shalom,
You can't
Akim, Yao,
protect us.
Bashim,
You
Yao,
can't do
Shai,
all these
Bashim,
other things.
Brakatam.
We're certainly not going to, you know, maintain a reasonable standard of living with you in power. And now you have to abandon everything you've been saying for the last, you know, 45 years plus. So what exactly are you? And so that's going to be difficult, but that's exactly what it is. It's not just an agreement. They're going to have to come to what would essentially be a peace agreement, which is a significant agreement which a number of parties would have to buy off on, not just the U.S., but Israel and others would have to buy off on, which would eliminate Iran as a threat in the region and worldwide. And there would probably be some conditions put in there which really get into imposing on Iranian sovereignty, if you will, some of the sovereign control that they have within the country, which today, that has been a big red line for the Iranians. They just won't agree to stuff like that. And part of the reason is because it goes to their core identity of what the regime represents. And I'm sure they're afraid that if they actually agree to this thing, it could be the tipping point where the regime no longer, you know, is no longer in power.
We expect President Trump to address the nation in 10 minutes. I just got a new report in from Fox News' Trey Yingst. He put together this package. He catches us up on everything that's happened in recent hours. Here's Trey.
Yeah, Brett, good evening. This has been the talk of Israel for the past several days as the country waited to see if the Americans would get directly involved in the conflict. And even up in the last few hours, I was talking with current and former sources, trying to get an understanding of when this might happen. And at 1:55 local time, one source said, rumors, Trump gave the word, supposed to be happening now. We were working on tracking it down, and the president taking to Truth Social to say the Americans did indeed strike 3 separate Iranian nuclear facilities, including the Fordow nuclear facility deep underground outside of the Iranian capital of Tehran. The bottom line here is that people are talking about enrichment. They understand that this decision was made because the Iranians were increasing their uranium enrichment capabilities and increasing the purity closer and closer to weapons-grade material. And the concern was that the Iranian regime was just weeks away from being able to build a nuclear bomb. We've seen over the past 9 days, the country has the ability to strike major population centers here in Israel with ballistic missiles. So you can imagine that having a nuclear warhead that could ultimately be attached to a ballistic missile would clearly be a direct threat to the Jewish state. And that was why the Israelis said that they made the decision to start these strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities and against top IRGC officials. And clearly tonight, President Trump ordering these strikes against the Iranian regime's nuclear program because there was no off-ramp for diplomacy at this point. And so this is a historic moment in the Middle East tonight, and again, an opportunity for the region, as the president laid out in his statement, for peace in the future, because this is a region that understands peace through strength.
Trey Yingst reporting earlier today with Brett Baer. Hal Kempfer is still with me. We are 7 minutes away from expecting President Trump to address the nation. We're expecting it at the top of the hour. Al, you just heard the word historic in Trey's piece. Why is this historic? The U.S. striking in Iran proper, 3 different places.
Well, first off, since 1979, this is the first time we've ever struck Iran, certainly in this way. We've actually launched these major strikes, Tomahawk missiles, taking out nuclear facilities, and then B-2 bombers, strategic bombers. And you gotta remember, they're not just planes. These are planes that are designed to carry nuclear weapons. And jihad actually means struggle. It doesn't always mean war per se, although when we say jihad, we normally mean war. And I should mention that Arabic is not the predominant language in Iran. It's actually Farsi, so maybe it's kind of a moot point. But anyway, they have kind of built their brand on this thing, that they have this constant struggle, conflict, whatever, with Israel and the West. And part of that goes back into the history of Iran. The Shah of Iran, when he came into power in 53, kind of the U.S. and Great Britain were behind getting him into power because there was another guy in there who we felt was too favorable, or was basically leaning towards the Soviet Union, different era, Cold War. I don't want to get into all the details, but the feeling was that the U.S. had basically, fomented a coup to put the Shah into power. They put the Shah in power, and they've aimed everything at the West. They've been anti-Western the entire time, and so that's what that is. That's what that regime is all about. And so right now, all the things that are underlie that regime, all the things that underlie, has now taken the thing that I've always pointed at is like, we might.
So basically, what's happening right now is they're, initiating and provoking a war with Iran, and then they very well may, have a false flag come about here in America. They're talking about sleeper cells, and it could be a 9/11 scale type of false flag. Okay. That could cause, them to go to war with Iran full throttle, and then pretty much, which is going to bring us into World War III. All right, Trump is about to speak here and make his, address to the nation concerning what America has done today, involving all of you into this war. Okay, all of us into this war, because these nations have nuclear missiles. All right, this Bible prophecy, America is going to be destroyed with thermonuclear missiles. All right, let's play this.
We don't know if he's going to come out any second now, any minute now, but I'm going to keep you on the line here, Hal, until we see President Trump walk out. Let's ask one more time, what exactly are you going to be looking to hear from the president? This is going to be the first time we've heard him on camera since we heard about this. What we've heard from him on social media is that we have completed what he calls very successful attacks on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. That includes Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Hal, it looks like President Trump, Vice President Vance, and others. It looks like Secretary Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio here. Let's listen to the president after the strikes on Iran.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow.
All right, there you have it. President Trump, in very brief remarks there, saying that Iran's nuclear program has been completely obliterated. Standing there, addressing the nation, behind him, Vice President Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and also the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here on this momentous night in American history, and we're going to keep it going. We're also going to be showing you in replay that very speech in case you might have missed it live. We're going to be showing it to you throughout the course of the evening, also bringing on guests, experts, analysts to help us make sense of this particular moment in time in American history, in the history, the makeup, and the...
So we understand where this is going. This is going to World War III, okay? This is going to cause Iran to, strike back in some way, form, or fashion. Russia, China is going to get involved, and it's going to just, escalate from there. Ultimately, these nations all gathering into the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is in that region, and the Lord coming back. And as that happens simultaneously, there's going to be nuclear missiles shot off, and people are going to be destroyed. A great death and destruction is coming. All right, but this is the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 11. It says, "And I beheld," and it's like my voice is a little scratchy. I lost my voice a little bit, so bear with me. The work must go on. It says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." And that's what you seen Trump just doing. He was speaking like a dragon, okay? All right, and then this is what these Edomites do. They give you these 2 horns, They give you this idea that you have a choice, an illusion of who you could have voted for, like it was going to be different no matter whoever got in office. No, it was going to be the same thing. It all amounts to prophecy. America's going to war. It says, "And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him," which is what? Rome. Okay, the Roman Empire. It says, "And causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed." Right, because the Roman Empire has been formed again through America, NATO, and the EU. Okay, and in this case, Israel and America. All right, but it resembles the ancient Roman Empire, who was conquering all these different nations. This is what America is doing. Okay, through Israel or with Israel, trying to, the devil's trying to stay in power. All right. And this guy right here is a complete demon.
Thank you. God bless America, God bless Israel, and may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
Okay, so there you have it. That was
missed
the
that.
message.
But this guy was the one that said, today Tel Aviv, tomorrow New York. So scripture says, at least the flock shall draw them out. That's what's happening. But it says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And this is what this devil do, where he go to dropping bombs, he go to dropping his dew, that dew weapon, direct energy weapon, you know. This man, and the Lord gave him that sword, that the blessing of the sword, okay, which goes into weapons, It could be a gun, it could be a sword, it could be, a bomb, a nuke, Let's play this again.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their...
Yeah, so, you get the picture. All right, these devils, they done started something up. And we understand this was going to happen because it was prophecy's sake, man. Trump came in office saying he was going to be, the president of peace. And you seeing that was just, a bunch of garbage, man. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. And they provoked this war. They antagonize this thing because it was always in our heart to go to war. All right. It was always in America. Trump's, in the time is 1:44 p.m. called Loyal Bashim Al Shai. All right. And it's spiritual because we was talking about this at camp. I believe I titled the camp, America is going to war with Iran. And, right after, probably while we was at camp, they was bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. Okay. So the Lord has shown us, and let me grab that too, in Amos, okay? What's that, Amos 3? The Lord has opened our eyes into what's going on. We understand what time that we're in, but majority of these people here in America, they're lost, they're confused, and now they're starting to be afraid. These people are afraid, they're bugging out right now. All they're talking about, you got Jakes all over TikTok talking about what happens if we got to go to if we go to World War III, or they talking about them, they don't want to get drafted. Everybody's talking about this now. But the prophet's been warning you of this time that we're coming into. It says, Psalm 55, verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words are softer than oil, but they are drawn swords. And this is why Trump can get on here and talk all smooth like this, but make, deadly threats into a whole other nation, okay? Which is going to pretty much just divide the nations, okay? And eventually it's going to come down to just America and Israel, and all these nations are going to turn against America and Israel, who provoked and initiated these wars, okay? It says, cast thy burden upon the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. So, yeah, we see what's going on in this country. A lot of people are about to die. A lot of people are about to lose their lives. A lot of people are about to be drafted into these wars. But the righteous shall not be removed, man. Okay, or shall not be moved. Okay, whoever the elect are, they're going to endure through all this, no matter how bad it gets or, what might happen. All right, but we are definitely coming into a time of war. And it's about to get very uncomfortable in this country. But this is what our the apostles, our elders and apostles have been proclaiming, and you know, as we've been teaching and entering into their labors, that this was coming. Okay, this is the time that we're coming to in this country. Let me grab this too. All right, this is the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 6. It says, "Shall a trumpet be blown in the city?" And then you got all these Edomite, governors, saluting this man for pretty much starting World War III. And that's through the Spirit. We was just literally talking about this at camp. We were still at the camp while this was all going down, while these, nuclear sites were being shot. Happened earlier in the day, and then Trump just now addressed it at 10 o'clock. Okay? They sent in them stealth bombers, it was undetected. Hey, this man's a crafty hunter, He said Donald Trump promised to bring peace to the Middle East. He has failed to deliver on that promise. The risk of war has now drastically increased. And I pray for the safety of our troops in the region who have been put in harm's way. President Trump misled the country about his intentions, failed to seek congressional authorization for the use of military force, and risk America's. Oh, we gotta bring that back. It's a lot. They was, amen. We see where this is going. All right. It says, President Trump misled the country about his intentions, failed to seek congressional authorization. It says, for the use of military force, and risks America entanglement in a potential disastrous war in the Middle East. First, the Trump administration bears the heavy burden of explaining to the American people why this military action was undertaken. And that's what Trump was doing. That's what they're doing in this video. They're trying to explain away why they did this. Okay? It says second, it was prophecy. The Lord made them do it. Okay? It says second, Congress must be fully and immediately briefed. Okay, so he pretty much did this without the authorization of the Congress. Okay, this is why Trump was the perfect president to start World War III off, because he was proud. He's arrogant. Okay, and he moved without even seeking, the authorization to move, which is really illegal. America was not in any way harmed. Okay, but they're doing all this to defend Israel because Trump is your first Jewish president. All right.
American people why this military action was undertaken. Second, Congress must be fully and immediately briefed in a classified setting. Third, Donald Trump shoulders complete and total responsibility for any adverse consequences that flow from his unilateral military action here. In the meantime, back out live there to the U.S. Capitol. Also, some other news made in that very, very short statement by the president that at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning, there will be a press briefing at the Pentagon. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will be there, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Kane, will be there as well, taking questions from reporters. So, of course, here on Live Now from Fox, we will be showing you that press conference live in its entirety. 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, Sunday morning, 5 a.m. Pacific time. In the meantime, we still have my colleague and friend, of course, national security analyst and expert and retired Marine intelligence officer, Hal Kemper, still on the horn after so many hours. Hal, you and I have been on the air for so many of these historic moments. I would say that this is one of the most major ones, and it's always a pleasure.
Well, there you go. All right. This is the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? And what happened when we be at camp? These past couple of weeks at camp, man, we'll be at camp teaching, and the siren will go off. You know, I'm not sure what it's for, but a siren will go off. I thought it was for the hurricane warning. I mean, it's like the tornado warning, but it's been going off like every time we teaching, which that's spiritual, because these alarms gonna go off and it go ring. I can't really say it right now because my voice, but that's spiritual that happens, because that means that's a symbol or a sign of the times we're coming into, where it's gonna be nuclear sirens going off. Okay. It says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city and the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai have not done it? Right? So all these things that we're hearing about, the trumpet is being blown. All right? Which starts with the men of the Lord, the prophets. Okay? But then you're going to hear actual sirens and trumpets going off. And then guess what? There's going to be evil, which means bad times in these cities all over the world, especially here in America. It says, surely the Lord, the Most High Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets. Fuck you. But he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets, right? So the Lord has, told his prophets what was going on. So as we seen this thing, popping off, taking place, and through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, brothers get excited. I said, let me go ahead and go live. When I found that Trump was going to make this, this announcement, all right? Because we're definitely in the time of World War III, all right? If not already in World War III. And Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is about to destroy this country as we know it, all right? This country is on a brink of disaster, all right? So, hey, you got to repent. Seek Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. Let's grab this real quick, though. It says, Jeremiah chapter 50. All this is good, but I'll get right to the point. Let's grab this real quick. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 23. How was the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken down? How is how is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? And that's what's coming to America. It's going to be broken down and become a desolation. It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found, and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. And America and Esau as a whole has striven against Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Okay, they thought that they the ones that put themselves in power. No, the Lord put you in power. Okay, for his purpose, for prophecy's sake. All right? And now it's time for you to, it says, verse 29, call together the archers against Babylon, which is America. All ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about, that let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work. So, hey, this is what this is leading up to. These nations are all going to camp around about America, and they're already aiming their nukes at America. Okay, the trajectory of all these nations' nukes is aimed at America already. Russia, China, Iran, all right, North Korea, they all have their nukes already aimed at America 24/7. All right. It says, recompense her according to her work, according to all that she have done, do unto her. So all the bombing, all the killing America has been doing, it's about to be done unto America. And Esau, all the robbing and killing and murdering that he's been doing, it's about to be done unto him. It says, recompense her according to her work, according to all she have done, do unto her, for she have been proud against the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Yahweh. That's another thing, too. These nations are going to gather over there in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, and they're going to die. A lot of these men that go over there and fight in those wars, they're going to die. They're going to die right there. It's going to be a meat grinder, okay? They're talking about 18 to 26 first, but then they're going to go up, 27 to 30 or 35. Same thing that happened in Ukraine. They started snatching people off the streets. And they said if you decide that you don't want to go after you've been drafted, which they're going to automatically draft you, before you had to go sign up to get drafted. Now they're going to automatically put you in the draft, you know? So, you know, boy, this thing about to get real. It says, therefore shall her young men fall in the street, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud. And America's proud. You heard what Donald Trump said. He said Donald Trump promises far greater attacks if Iran does not make peace. How can they make peace now? You just struck them. Okay? You just attacked them. If you attack somebody, they ain't going to want to make peace. They're going to want to make war. Okay? And the Lord is stirring up these nations to make war against America. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua of hosts, for thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee, and the most proud shall stumble, and the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him." And that's what's coming to America. Okay? The Lord's going to pretty much, you know, cause this proud devil to stumble, okay, and fall. And then the kindle fire that's going to be in the midst of him, or, you know, America, is going to be a nuclear fire. All right? The lake of fire, as the Bible speaks of. It says, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. And this is what the Lord is predominantly doing this about, his people. These so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Indians that are being mistreated in this country, that's been enslaved in this country, that's been enslaved all around the world. Okay, mistreated all around the world. The Lord's going to set the record straight. Their Redeemer is strong. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. And that's what the Lord about to do. He about to really, you know, they talking about make peace. If Iran don't make peace, there ain't gonna be no peace, man. The only way it's gonna be peace in the Middle East is when the Lord comes back and establishes peace by destroying these nations, okay, and their militaries. It says, but the Lord, what it say, he shall thoroughly plead their cause. Lord's gonna, so like the Lord gonna really jack these individuals up, man. All right. It says, a sword is upon the Chaldeans, with saith Yahweh. So a sword, those missiles are upon those Chaldeans, which is these modern day Americans. It says, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. And everybody in the military right now, bro, you finna get to putting, you finna die. This is why you got all these videos coming out of these motherfuckers eating 5-star meals, talking about the military feeding us like this. Yeah, because they're finna deploy you to your destruction. That's your last meal. That's your last real meal. Okay, you're gonna be eating, you know, that you know, those military meals. Okay, those powdered meals until you go pretty much, you know, back to the spirit world. Because they know they're going to lose this war, this war. This is why they have bunkers. A lot of people are going to die in this nuclear war. All right, let me grab this right here, too. I'm going to grab close. I don't make this too long. But, what's that? Let me see. Bear with me 1 second. I think that's Malachi. Let me see. Yeah. MRE. Yeah, they're gonna be eating them MREs, and then all of a sudden all hell gonna break loose. They're gonna get blown up, man. All right, this is it's not it. Let's see. This is in the book of Malachi, chapter 4, verse 1. For behold, the day cometh, saith, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up. And this is the day that we're coming into, where it's going to be literally fire, you know, a lake of fire in America. Okay, the land we standing on is going to be engulfed in flames. It's going to be hit with nukes. Okay. Only thing that we can hope is that we can be delivered by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai when that time comes, because without Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, everybody's going to be doomed. It says, and that day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, right? It's going to be nothing left. All right, America's going to be through. There's going to be nothing left, man. All right? And this is why through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, the Lord set up the prophets, okay? It says, Malachi chapter 3, verse 6. It says, for I am Yahweh, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So the Lord promised that these things was going to go down like this, and he was not going to change so that we don't be consumed, okay? Because they're trying to destroy us. So now the Lord is about to destroy our enemies, okay? And, you know, you know, deliver us. You know, that's that's what's coming too. This is the beauty of flourishing things. It says Proverbs chapter 21, verse 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Beautiful. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Right. And the king's heart, you know, which Trump is the pretend king. You know, it's really these elites. You know, but their minds is in the hands of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. The Most High is controlling their actions and what they do so that it will fulfill prophecy. All right. And the Lord turneth it, or does what he wants with it, and moves it whether so he will. Because Trump was saying a lot of things before he got in office that he wouldn't do, and now he was trying to stop this and be a president of peace, and now he's doing the complete opposite. Why? Because the Lord is making him do that. And beautiful precept throughout him. I was thinking about this precept earlier. It says that's the spirit. That's how you know that is a wavelength. If the Lord wanted to go out, it's going to go out. Okay, because I was thinking about the spirit scripture earlier as I'm doing this video, you know, and the Lord had this, you know, this person put it up there. And that's all the spirit. It says, every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. And that's the thing, too. See what Trump just did with that speech, and all these Edomites on this platform was trying to justify it. Okay, they're trying to justify why he did what he did and why what happened is what happened. But, you know, we understand what it's going to lead up to. And they kind of know, too. But the Lord is controlling them to make them do it anyways. Okay? America is through. America is through, man. This place is finished. Okay? This is Malachi chapter 3, verse 16. It says, then they that feared the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai spake often one to another. That's why we do these lessons. You know? Not every week or, you know, every 2 weeks or once every 3 months, but diligently every day. Every day, if not every other day. Maybe sometimes 2-3 times a day. Okay? Why? Because we got to, you know, speak to one another. All right? It says, and Yahweh hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahweh and that thought upon his name. And that's only going to be the elect. Scripture says the elect shall praise his holy name. So whoever the elect are, they're not afraid. They're not shaken up. They're not terrified. No, they're you know, they're in the spirit. Okay? I believe this is Iran's nuclear sites obliterated after U.S. strikes. I believe that's Tel Aviv. Okay, they're showing you Tel Aviv live. All right? And you're going to see a bunch of bombs falling upon Tel Aviv soon. Again, you know, because they've been bombing each other back and forth this whole time. So it's only escalating. It's only getting worse. All right? But it says, and they shall be mine, saith Yahweh of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him, which is the elect. The Lord gonna spare his elect. He gonna deliver here. He gonna deliver the elect. But everybody else is gonna die here. Like I said at camp today, man. I was, I got a friend that's a heathen. If you can call her, if you can call her a friend, But I told her, I said, damn, I'm gonna miss you. Because if you on the shores of America, if you're a heathen, you're going to die. Okay? You're going to die. That's it. All right? Only people who have a chance to be delivered is you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Indians, and you have to be predestined, the elect from the beginning of the foundation of the earth. Which that's not everybody. Majority of our people here in America are going to die too. We was, at the camp earlier, a few hours ago, and we up there, and it was where we camp at is usually very diverse, but today it was just a bunch of Jakes, Judah. Just a bunch of ass Jakes, man. None of them actually, really stopped to inquire. They were just in their own little world having fun, enjoying themselves. And guess what? These going to be the same of our people that's going to die horrible, grievous deaths. Okay? The Lord is only concerned with the elect of Israel. Everybody else is through. There's nothing that we can do for them anyways. Even if as we hope to be the elect, even if we are the elect, there's nothing that we can do for these people. All we got is to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. It says, then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth the Most High and him that serveth him not. And we seeing this. We seeing guys coming up with heresies and false doctrines. All right, because they don't really serve Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. They may have the fringes on. They may know a few precepts and a few breakdowns, but they're not truly serving Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. A lot of guys are just serving their own belly, serving their own, desires, their own, But this truth, the Lord is concerned with the elect. All right. That's pretty much the point. I'll go ahead and close out on that. I didn't want to make this too long. I pray it's been edifying to the hopeful elect. I just want to, go live and, review some of this, news that's coming out right now through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. I pray it was edifying. But as you see, breaking U.S. bombs, and I might put that in the title, U.S. bombs Iran nuclear sites, Trump to address nation at 10 p.m. And here it is almost, it is 11:09. So, hey, we are your spiritual newscasters. They're going to tell you the news, but we're going to tell you the spiritual aspects of the news, meriting it with the scriptures through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So you know what's going on. So you know what's really happening through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Because Esau will tell you a bunch of lies with a straight face, a straight shaved face, man. Okay, but we're going to tell you the truth concerning the scriptures. America is going to war. It's about to get very, very uncomfortable here. Another thing, too, I want to go into it. Lord, when I get to do it, I'm trying to let my voice heal. But, with this whole war and conflict in the so-called Middle East, gas prices are about to go up. It's about to skyrocket. So if you got any gas containers, it'll be in your best interest to go fill them gas containers up, boy. Because pretty soon gas is going to be $20, $15, $20 a gallon. And then eventually it's going to be no gas at all. All right. This place is going to get shut down. Okay. You go into these stores, and even at my job, the lights flickering, So the Lord is about to do a shutdown of this place. Needless to say, it's going to be a comité where it may be a false flag, okay? But it's going to be, or it might be something real, with these sleeper cells here. But I believe, it might be a cyber attack, and it may shut everything out, shut everything off. It might go completely dark here in America. And then that's when things are really going to turn up, okay? Hey, scriptures talk about that. When we was in Egypt, it went completely dark, but the Israelites had light in their dwelling. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. I'll close out with that. All right. Through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. That'd be the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right. Because when this time that we coming into comes, all we going to have is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Those are people that don't have Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. They're going to be in trouble. Okay? You see, It's the book of Exodus, chapter 10, verse 20. It says, but the Lord Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, I mean his mind. It says, so that he would not let the children of Israel go. So we was in ancient Egypt, which America's modern day Egypt. That's why there's a pyramid on the back of your dollar bill. That's why you see right here behind the White House, this is the White House. It looks like that right there is an obelisk, okay? An Egyptian monument, which is supposed to represent a penis, okay? This is modern day Egypt, Rome, okay, Sodom and Gomorrah, all over again. You know, those same spirits are back today here in America. It says, and the Lord Yahweh said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And that's what's going to come to America. Okay, modern day Egypt, darkness which may be felt. We're going to shut the lights off, man. That's what I believe may very well happen. Some type of EMP attack, some type of, you know, something to knock off this country's, you know, the electrical system, as the scriptures tell us. You know, the fountains of, you know, shall stop running after 3 days, man. Okay, this place is going to go into a complete shutdown. You see the fountain right there in front of the White House. That ain't gonna be running if the lights go out, because of what, the water is controlled by the electricity. The fountain shall stand still. Yeah, there ain't gonna be you know an abundance here in this country for much longer. These countries are going to stop sending in products. Okay. They're all going to come together in, you know, one consent against America, and do everything in their power to you know, disrupt and disable America as much as possible. And then Trump's going to lash back out more, and then what happened? They're going to go into complete nuclear war. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. You see? So all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. We was able to see. These other nations, they weren't able to see. And Lord about to do that again. But it's not just going to be in the other nations. It's going to be two-thirds of our people as well. And all hell break loose, and they get dark out here, and they go completely, you know, you're going to have government militias and, you know, militaries and, you know, whatever, you know, out here with night goggles on, going door to door, kicking in doors and stuff, man. All right? People are gonna be not knowing what's going on. All you're gonna hear is gunshots, screaming, you know, and then, you know, the Lord gonna give us, you know, the eye salve to see and understand what to do in that day. He's gonna guide us in these last days, and as we come into this great death and destruction of America as we know it. Yeah, so that's the point. All right, I'm going to close out. I praise this was edifying to those elect, double honors to our teachers, the elders and apostles, the great millstone who taught us his truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to those elect scattered abroad. Shalom to 144,000. Lord willing, I can go live again tomorrow morning. You know, depending on how my voice is feeling, Lord, I'm gonna take some some herbs, some natural remedies. The Lord, when it feels better, so I want to go live some more tomorrow before we have class. Praise be edifying to those elect once again. You know, we in a time of great death and destruction, man, and the Lord is about to really show, you know, his power and make these scriptures come off the paper. Okay, these scriptures are going to manifest. His words are going to be made known unto these people. Okay, and all we can do is hope and pray that as that's happening, the Lord has mercy upon us. Shalom, Kama Shalom, Shalom.